Matt Porter, thanks for joining us. It's been another successful juncture down under for this year.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, we're sitting here tonight, coming to the end of 3 great weeks in Australia and New Zealand. To be back in Brisbane for a second year and produce such a fantastic story as Damon Heta lifting the trophy was, one of the most important things for Australian darts in its history, I would say. And then moving on to Melbourne, Van Gerwen reclaiming a crown, and tonight, who knows? But whatever happens tonight, there's a fantastic crowd here in at Claudelands, and I think it'll be a great way to cap off the trip.
We talk about Damon first, of course, and I think I said to you on the night, this was one of the things that Barry and yourself looked at 2013. Gabriel Clemens made the final in Germany. It's really important that the locals stand up.
Of course, yeah. I mean, otherwise it just becomes an exhibition, doesn't it? You can bring the best players in the world, but if they're just going to steamroller local players and divide it all up between themselves, what's the point? We want to see talent being produced organically in different territories. We want to see people aspiring to compete on the biggest stage. And the only way you can do that is by giving them the opportunity and the platform to do so. What is it now, 6 years in Australia, and you've got to the stage where you produced a winner. And Damon hasn't even really had a chance to come over and test himself against the big boys, so who knows what he can achieve.
The accusation early on was it was a glorified exhibition, but I guess the story out of Michael's victory is the fact that these guys are taking it seriously. We know the PDC take it seriously by who you bring down here as well. That's
fine. I mean, there's too many snobs out there who think they know everything about it, so that's fine. They can call it what they like. But you see it, people around these events see it. They know how much it means to the players to come down here and put on a show. They've flown a long way. They don't want to go up there and not play to their best. Listen, different events bring different pressures, and there's commitments with travel and timings and things like that don't always make it easy for everybody to play to the best of their ability. But once they've acclimatised, as you saw last week in Melbourne and this week in New Zealand, the standard is up there with what they can produce anywhere else. And actually, it doesn't hurt if 1 or 2 lose, and we do get the Hetters and people like that coming through and winning games. So no problem at all.
And New Zealand, I mean, you've seen over the last few years, 4 years in Auckland, now in Hamilton, how passionate they are about their darts, but more importantly, the consistency of play. Yes, we talk about Damon Heta, but last year we saw major competition from the Kiwis, and this year the same.
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand does probably over-index for a small country of 4 million people, or not small geographically, but a small population, 4 million people, to produce so many players who can compete internationally at darts is really, really strong. And obviously, from Australia, we've seen players come through and compete internationally. So the two combined deliver to produce a very strong darts region. And when you speak to people like Gary Anderson and Michael Van Gerwen, they don't come down here expecting to steamroller players 6-0. They know it's going to be tough, and anything like 6-4, 6-5 is not a surprise.
Looking at the darts world holistically, one of the great things this year has been, for us, watching the Premier League and watching the challenges, and I know that the interest has been there with Kyle get in, with Simon and all of that. We know that Barry's had a few words about exactly whose idea it was to put the challenges in. Yeah. Do you think it's been everything that you thought it would be when you first came up with the idea?
I mean, I must say, like, Barry was, very generous saying it was all my idea. It wasn't all my idea, but there was input from lots of different people, Rod and Sky and people like that as well. So, but look, between us, we came up with a concept that worked. It doesn't really matter whose idea it was. The key thing was that the local aspect worked really well. Players playing in their hometowns. That was when the crowds really got on side and inspired them to produce fantastic performances. When it was guys not playing in their home arenas, it was still good, but it didn't quite hit the same heights, because you don't get that. Everybody loves a hometown hero, don't they? So we'll be mindful of that. And the Premier League will always evolve. It's gone from 7 players to 8 to 10, Judgment Night, increased prize money, new countries, all that sort of thing. So it will always evolve. And quite what happens in 2020, we'll wait and see.
We hope to see John Henderson one day again, because that was just brilliant, even on this side of the world. For you, obviously, you wear 2 hats. You're still heavily involved in Leyton Orient. Orient, of course, got sold by Barry a few years ago, but you remained in touch. And bad things have happened to the club for a long time, and it was almost like a triumph last year that you get through and you come back into the old divisions. But unfortunately, your manager passed away in horrific circumstances. Yeah,
I mean, look, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. 2 years ago, saving the club, and then we won the league, and then obviously Justin, what happened to him was obviously horrific. This summer just gone. So, Orient fans have been through the mill in the good way and the bad way. But the main thing that's come out of it is that the club is now stable and on a footing from which it can increase, improve, and hopefully get back up into League One. So, overall things are positive, but there's been some heartache on the way.
What's the future for Brisbane Road? I mean, I love it because it's obviously where I went and watched them play for a long time, but then there was Barry throwing out the Olympic Stadium would be good for Leyton Orient, or, West Ham would be good. But as you progress, Brisbane Road, I guess, is going to have to be redeveloped or some thought as to what happens.
The capacity is just under 10,000. It's all-seater. 3 of the stands are very modern. One's being updated. It's fine for our purposes at the moment, and the current ownership have got no plans to change. So there's no real sort of hurry or rush on that front.
And I guess that's important too. As a Carlisle supporter, I know that you have to do little steps. It's got to be about consolidating this year.
Football's about consistency. Too many people want to throw money at it and achieve success overnight, and that's not always possible. You need to be patient. You need to have faith in the people you employ. And you just need to trust your decisions. And too many people in football, as we're seeing at the moment with crisis clubs like Bury and Bolton Wanderers, they're just not being managed the right way at all. So, for us, stability and consistency are what will bring results rather than the other way around.
I've wanted to ask this of you forever. The first day you walked into Brisbane Road, could you ever imagine that you'd be sitting here now where you are?
No, you don't want to make predictions and stuff like that, do you? Because they very rarely come true. So, I've been fortunate in opportunities that have come my way, but, who knows what's round the corner.
And finally, PDC next year, obviously we still talk about the World Series of Darts being really important in just the fabric of this game in New Zealand and Australia. It's a really important element in our game.
It is, yeah. I mean, all the work that the DPA and the DPNZ are doing down here needs to be about pathways for players, whether that's going on to qualify for the World Championship, or the World Cup, or, getting a tour card, or whatever it may be. They need to have the opportunity to offer players the chance to progress from the first time they ever pick up a dart to potentially the time they become world champion. And the structures that are being created down here now are going to give players that opportunity. It's going to be more prize money, more events. It's going to be chances for them to compete more regularly and sharpen up their skills and improve their competitive instincts. And that's what it's all about, because that's where the Simon Whitlocks, the Kyle Andersons, the Corey Cadbys come from. And there'll be plenty more coming off that conveyor belt in the years to come, I'm sure.
And we look forward to seeing you again next year.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.